I want to have a little fun today. I want to be a little bit more dramatic. We'll see how it goes. But I want to talk to you about one of my favorite New Year's traditions, which is, and it happened this year, the Twilight Zone Marathon. It's the best part of New Year's, and it switches from network to network, but usually someone has got the Twilight Zone on. And when I was a kid, my dad showed these to us around New Year's Eve, and we had so much fun with it New Year's Day. He loved showing us those episodes, and they're so well written. They're really good. They stand the test of time. One episode in particular I want to talk about today was one that came on this past weekend. I think it was Sunday or Monday. Watched it. With Burgess Meredith. The episode was The Obsolete Man. Interesting episode. This man is brought before court, kind of a pulpit-like thing. You see the picture there, kind of like what we have, but much bigger. And he's brought because he's accused of being obsolete. Obsolete means no longer necessary, no longer important, no longer needed. He was declared obsolete because he was a librarian. And in this totalitarian, dictatorial state, there's no more need for books or librarians. They bring him before him and they have this long discussion, this man up there in that tall podium, the chancellor, about how the state determines the rights of man. State determines what is good and right, who is valuable, who's invaluable. And Mr. Wordsworth, played by Burgess Meredith, says, God determines who's worth something. It's God who gives meaning. And the chancellor says, the state has declared there is no God. There's no need for God anymore. The state has decided that. Mr. Wordsworth says, but there is a God. And He gives us our meaning and value to human life. Not you. Not some state. The mock court, the kangaroo court, jumps up from the side in the episode. And they say, how does the court find Mr. Romney Wordsworth? And each one says, obsolete, obsolete, obsolete. And then the man sitting beneath the podium chants out in a sing-songy voice, obsolete. They bring Wordsworth back up and they say, you've been declared obsolete and you will be liquidated. We're going to execute you. But we let you determine the manner of your execution. Mr. Wordsworth is very clever and says, okay, but it can be only known to me and the executioner and the time at which it'll happen. And more than this, I want an audience. The chancellor says, Mr. Wordsworth, we can accommodate that. The state will love to watch someone like you die and see how you face death and feign in the superiority of the state. Of course, we'll give you your television audience. And they do. Chuck, if you go to the next slide, this is the next scene. Mr. Wordsworth is in his apartment, surrounded by his books he loves so much. And the chancellor comes to his apartment to taunt him, to give him that last little bit of prodding on behalf of the state to show his superiority. But Mr. Wordsworth smiles and starts to have that discussion with him back and forth. He pulls out his favorite book. He pulls out his Bible. The chancellor doesn't have time for this, doesn't want to hear it, and he goes for the door and he tries to open the door to get out, and it's locked. He's trapped. He sits, and Mr. Wordsworth says, I bet you want to know now how I chose to die. Well, at midnight, a bomb is going to go off in this apartment, killing you and me. Now show the state how a great man of the state faces death. Show them how a great man is to die. He reads from his Bible the 23rd Psalm, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And for the chancellor, he reads Psalm 14, the fool says in his heart, there is no God. A man at peace, seen as obsolete and a fool, faces death with such peace and tranquility while the man of the state begins to lose his mind and begs to be let out. He bangs on the door. The door opens. He runs down halfway down the flight of stairs, and the bomb goes off. He goes back to his court, and he sees a man has taken his place. He's brought before the court and is declared obsolete. Rod Serling says that this is a vision of a world that could be but not yet was. It was based on all the dictatorships, he said, of the previous century. But this is a world that could be. This past week and past couple weeks, I've seen that it is a world that has come to be. The state doesn't do what the chancellor did, but the court of popular opinion, public opinion does. That's the new state and the new court. I have to go from one TV show to another to talk about the Wordsworths of the world. I have to go to HGTV. Now, I don't watch that channel much except when I'm at the doctor's office. They have it on all the time, and it doesn't make my anxiety about seeing the doctor any better. But they have HGTV on. That's the only time I'll watch it. But I saw this story in the news. There's a couple who's beloved has this show. People love it. Fixer Upper, I think, is the name of it. They love this show. It's the most popular show on HGTV. Makes them all sorts of money. People absolutely go nuts over this couple. Squeaky clean, lovely family, have kids. They look great. Everyone loves them. They have so much fun watching this show. But the court of public opinion isn't satisfied. Something doesn't seem right. Perhaps this is too good to be true. We must investigate them, and they did. They didn't find a scandal. They didn't find any fishy money dealings. But they found something damnable. Something abhorrent in the eyes of the enlightened court of popular opinion. They went to a church that had a belief that didn't agree with theirs. How dare you? How dare you insult us with your unenlightened, backwards, foolish beliefs? In the eyes of us who are enlightened and know all. You must, and they did this, you must renounce them. You must disavow your pastor and its people. And you must come publicly out and agree with us that we are right and they are wrong. It sounds like I'm borrowing from this episode. I'm not. That happened. And the couple said, we're not going to take the bait for that. We believe it doesn't make sense that you can love someone but can't disagree with them. To love someone and disagree with them is perfectly fine and natural. To say that it's impossible is insane. To say that in order to love you, I must agree with every single thing that you do, right or wrong, is nonsensical, and it's a lie. And they resisted them, like Mr. Wordsworth did. And how do you think the court liked that? Obsolete, I'm sure, is the word that came to mind. We go to the chancellors of the world, and they are around. The technological geniuses, the social media gurus, the ones who have put together this internet world that we live in. One of the great chancellors, the great leaders, founder of Facebook, famous atheist, praised for that, I'm sure, because they worship science. They worship what they see and what they know, what they can reach out and test. Science now tells us what is good, right, what is moral. And our leaders uphold these values. Except this past week, the founder of Facebook said, I renounce atheism and I believe there is a God, and that religion is very, very good. Like the chancellor, when he comes back to the court, what do you think they'll say? Obsolete, I'm sure. This is a world that has come to pass, but it's nothing new. During the time of Jesus, we could go to the next one. 3 wise men came from the east, seeking the King of the Jews. They came looking for the one promised, but to the wise of Israel, to the scribes and the Pharisees and the priests, these were fools, sorcerers, pagans from Persia or Babylon, coming to seek the King of the Jews. What king? We have a king, his name is Herod, and he's in this palace, and Herod tells them he's jealous. Once you find the child, come see me, And tell me where he is so I may worship him too. Except Herod wants to kill him. The wise men go, they follow the star, and they find this baby, and they bow down and worship him. They give him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and go by their home to their country a different way. Foolish to the wise of Israel to go down and worship this baby. What Messiah? What king is this? But the wise men called so foolish are truly wise because they believe God's word. They believe God's promise that he would provide a Messiah and he would come this way, and they came to seek him and they worshiped him. Fools in the eyes of the world, the wise men, the ones who acknowledge God although it be unpopular, the ones who resist the temptation to fall away from the faith. Wise to God, but foolish to the world. And when it comes to Jesus and us, it's the same way. Sometimes we want to do what's popular, what the court approves of, but bowing down and worshiping Jesus is not always popular. I'm sure it wasn't during his ministry, the times where he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. Very much an unpopular teaching today. When he said, I am the bread of life, people walked away. Who can understand it? Who can believe it? It was unpopular when he went before the court, before Pilate was declared obsolete and liquidated at the cross. Unpopular to follow him as he carried his cross to Golgotha. Unpopular to stand there and watch him die. Unpopular to run to the empty tomb to find the risen Lord. Unpopular to spread that truth to all the world. To know that God has come and given his life for us and to us. Not popular. Foolish by the standards of the world. Foolish to the scribes and Pharisees and the wise men of Israel. But it is true wisdom. Wisdom in the eyes of God. Wisdom that comes from Jesus Christ. We are called, although we're seen as foolish in the eyes of the world, to spread the same message. Although it may be unpopular, it may be seen as foolish, we are called to go and shine the light of Christ to a world that needs to hear it, a world that lives in its foolishness, in its doubt, its denial, its falling after other gods. We, like the wise men, are good to go and worship Jesus and bring people with us, so they may bow down and see the King of Kings. They may turn from their foolishness to wisdom. They may know the God who has come to give his life on behalf of theirs, so that they may live eternally. We are sent out to spread this light to all the world, even though it may seem foolish, so that fools be made wise men. And now may the peace that surpasses all understanding keep your hearts and minds in this same Christ Jesus.